The watcher in the stars. The universe stretched endlessly before her, an infinite expanse of stars burning in the abyss. From the moment she became self-aware, Liara had known only the cold silence of space. She was a celestial observer, a sentinel of the cosmos, bound by duty and the laws of her kind. The Niveran were an ancient race, woven into the very fabric of the galaxies, their existence predating most intelligent civilizations. They did not interfere, they did not alter, and they most certainly did not attach themselves to the beings they observed. And yet, Liara found herself returning to one planet over and over again: Earth. At first, it had been curiosity. Humanity was so unlike the other sentient species she had encountered. They were fragile, limited by their short lifespans, trapped within their own atmosphere for much of their existence. And yet in them, she saw something that no other species possessed: defiance against their own insignificance. Other civilizations sought perfection, eradicated flaws, and strived for stability. Humans, however, embraced their imperfections, turning struggle into strength and chaos into progress. Among all of them, one human in particular caught her attention: Nathan Carter. She first noticed him beneath the glow of city lights, staring up at the night sky with an expression she had never seen before: yearning. He was neither a scientist nor a philosopher, just an ordinary man who seemed to carry the weight of the stars in his eyes. Night after night, he would return to that same rooftop, speaking to the sky as if he were waiting for someone, to answer. Liara had watched humans mourn, celebrate, destroy, and rebuild, but never had she seen one so aware of the vastness beyond their world. He spoke not with the arrogance of those who thought themselves important in the universe, but with a quiet reverence, as though he understood just how small he truly was. And yet, he did not fear it. She told herself it was fascination, nothing more. An anomaly in her centuries of observation. But when she found herself drawn to him night after night, she knew something had shifted within her. One evening, as Nathan sat with a telescope by his side, a soft sigh escaped his lips. "If there's something out there, watching us," he murmured, "I hope you see what we see. That we're trying. That we're more than just what history says we are." Liara had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall, but none had ever sought recognition like this. He wasn't asking for proof of life beyond Earth. He was asking for understanding, for connection. And that was when Liara made the first mistake of her existence. She spoke to him. Nathan flinched, eyes darting around. He hadn't heard a voice, not in the traditional sense, but rather a whisper in the depths of his mind, as if the stars themselves had exhaled a breath meant only for him. "You are seen." His heart pounded. Was it exhaustion? A trick of the mind? He turned his gaze back to the stars, searching for movement, for anything that could confirm what he had just heard. But there was nothing. For nights, he returned to the rooftop, waiting, speaking, hoping. And Liara, against every law that bound her existence, listened. It was a slow unraveling, an impossible connection forming between a being that had known eternity and a man whose life was nothing more than a fleeting spark. She should have left. She should have erased his memories and faded back into the abyss of space. But she didn't. She watched, and she chose. It was on the night of the first winter snowfall that she made her presence known. The city below was alive with the hum of human existence, laughter, warmth, and the flickering glow of streetlights reflecting off the fresh snow. Nathan stood, wrapped in a heavy coat, breath curling in the air as he whispered to the sky, unaware that he was no longer alone. Liara stepped forward, her form no longer hidden within the unseen layers of reality. Her presence was ethereal. Her skin shimmered like the fabric of the cosmos itself, her eyes reflecting galaxies beyond comprehension. A being of stardust and light, standing before a mortal man. Nathan froze. His first instinct was to step back, but something in her gaze held him still. It wasn't fear he felt, it was recognition. As if a part of him had always known something like her existed. "You," He breathed, his voice barely audible. "You're real." Liara tilted her head. "As are you." The absurdity of her words made him laugh, soft, uncertain, but filled with disbelief. "What are you?" She hesitated, the weight of her actions pressing against her like the gravitational pull of a dying star. "I am Liara of the Niveran, a watcher of worlds." His brow furrowed. "You've been watching us. I have been watching you." The confession was heavier than she expected, and for the first time in her existence, she felt something she did not fully understand. Doubt. Nathan exhaled, shaking his head. "Why me? Why now?" Liara could have given him 100 reasons. She could have told him about the anomaly of human resilience, of their ability to shape their destiny despite their limitations. She could have explained that his words had reached beyond the veil of space, that his yearning had touched something deep within her. But instead, she spoke the only truth that mattered. "In the whole universe, I chose only you, human, and you don't know why." Nathan's breath hitched. The weight of those words settled deep within him, stirring something he couldn't name. And in that moment, he realized his life was about to change forever. Little did he know, so was hers. The bond that shouldn't exist. The night was still. Snow fell in slow, drifting flakes, each one dissolving into nothingness as they landed on the pavement. But Nathan barely felt the cold anymore. He stood frozen, eyes locked onto the luminous being before him. Liara. She was unlike anything he had ever seen, beautiful in a way that defied explanation. Her presence seemed to shift, like she was both here and not, her form flickering with the brilliance of distant nebulae. Her eyes held entire galaxies, and yet in them, there was something else, something undeniably human. "You chose me." Nathan's voice was barely above a whisper, the words carrying the weight of everything he couldn't understand. But why? Liara hesitated. She had asked herself the same question 1,000 times, yet no logical answer had formed. She was bound by ancient laws, forbidden to interfere, let alone form attachments. And yet, she had done both. "I don't know," she admitted, the admission feeling foreign on her tongue. "But I felt it the moment I saw you. As if some part of the universe was calling me to you." Nathan swallowed hard, his heart pounding against his ribs. "Fats." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "That's insane. I'm no one. Just some guy who talks to the sky and wonders what's out there." "You are not just some guy, Nathan Carter." Liara took a step closer, and though she did not touch him, he could feel her presence like a whisper against his skin. "You question, you search, you dream of something beyond yourself. And in that, you are unlike any being I have ever observed." He shook his head. "That still doesn't make me special." Liara studied him, something unreadable in her celestial gaze. "Perhaps not to yourself. But to me you are." Nathan felt the air leave his lungs. He had spent his life feeling like he was reaching for something just beyond his grasp. And now, that something stood before him. An impossible being from the stars who had broken the very fabric of her existence to speak to him. The weight of it was overwhelming. "What happens now?" he asked, barely able to process his own words. Liara turned her gaze skyward, as if listening for something beyond Nathan's ability to perceive. "My kind will not be pleased that I have revealed myself to you." Nathan stiffened. "Wait, you're not supposed to be here." She nodded. "We are watchers, nothing more. We do not interfere. We do not choose." A shadow crossed her features, and I have broken that law. Nathan exhaled slowly. "So what happens to you?" Liara hesitated. "I do not know." And that scared her. For all her existence, she had known certainty. She had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, watched stars be born and burn out. And yet, for the first time, she was stepping into the unknown. She had chosen without knowing the consequences. A deep silence fell between them, the night stretching around them like a fragile thread waiting to snap. Then Nathan did something he never thought he would do. He reached out. His fingers hesitated just inches from hers. He wasn't even sure if she could feel touch, but something told him she could. Liara stared at his outstretched hand, eyes wide as though no one had ever done such a thing before. "You said you chose me," Nathan said, voice steady despite the storm of emotions within him. "Then let me choose you too." Liara's breath hitched. It was such a simple gesture, a universal symbol of trust, and yet it sent something shattering through her. Slowly, she lifted her hand, pressing her palm lightly against his, and in that moment, everything changed. Nathan felt a surge of something he couldn't explain. His mind expanded, his senses heightening as flashes of the universe flooded through him. He saw burning stars collapsing into nothingness, civilizations thriving and fading, the very threads of existence weaving together in ways beyond human comprehension. And at the center of it all, Liara. Her thoughts, her fears, her endless existence of watching but never belonging. Nathan gasped, his knees almost giving out as the connection broke. Liara stumbled back as well, clutching her chest, as if she too had felt something she couldn't understand. "Fat." Nathan exhaled sharply, gripping the railing of the rooftop to steady himself. What the hell was that? Liara's voice was unsteady, a bond that should not exist. Nathan stared at her, his mind still reeling. "And what does that mean?" Lara looked at him, something fragile in her gaze. "It means I am no longer just an observer." A chill ran down Nathan's spine. "Then what are you now?" Liara did not answer, because she did not know. Meanwhile, in the depths of the universe, far beyond Earth's atmosphere, in the silent void where stars whispered their secrets, a great presence stirred. The Niveran were not a species that ruled through violence. They did not conquer, nor did they destroy, but they were absolute in their laws. And among those laws, there was one above all else. Never interfere, never form attachments, never choose. And Liara had broken them all. A ripple spread through the void, a silent alarm that only those of her kind could hear. The Council of the Niveran, beings older than time itself, turned their gazes toward the tiny blue planet where one of their own had strayed. They did not speak, for they did not need to. They had already decided. Liara would face judgment, and humanity would soon learn the consequences of her choice. The consequence of choice. Nathan had never felt so hollow and full at the same time. The moment his hand had touched Liara's, something inside him had shifted. No, awakened. It was as if the universe itself had whispered into his mind, revealing fragments of existence that no human was ever meant to comprehend. He had glimpsed galaxies birthing and dying, civilizations rising and crumbling like sandcastles before an endless tide. But beneath it all, he had felt something more intimate. He had felt her. Liara was not some distant celestial being observing the universe from an untouchable throne of knowledge. She was lonely. Despite all her years, all her infinite existence, she had never known what it was to truly connect, until now. And that changed everything. She stood across from him now, her luminous form flickering ever so slightly. Not because she was unstable, but because something beyond their understanding had been set into motion. The laws of her kind were absolute, yet she had broken them. And now they were both teetering on the edge of an unknown fate. "You shouldn't have touched me," Liara whispered, her voice trembling like stardust caught in a solar storm. Nathan let out a breathless laugh, still gripping the railing to keep himself grounded. "Well, I guess that makes two of us." She shook her head. "You don't understand, Nathan. A connection like that, it binds. It changes. And my kind." She hesitated, looking skyward. "They will come." His chest tightened. "Come. You mean?" "The Niveran." Liara's voice was soft, but in it was an unshakable certainty. "They know. They always know." Nathan frowned. "So, what? They punish you for caring about someone." Her expression was unreadable, but there was sadness there, deep and infinite. We are not meant to form attachments. We observe. That is our only purpose. Nathan's jaw clenched. That's messed up. Liara tilted her head, as if processing the idea in a new way. Perhaps, she admitted, but it has been our way for eons. We do not choose, Nathan. And yet, I chose you. Something about the way she said it sent a shiver through him. It wasn't just a choice of observation. It wasn't even just a choice of defiance. She had chosen him in a way no one ever had before. And that made it dangerous. Nathan ran a hand over his face, trying to process everything. Okay, let's say these. Nyvarin show up. What happens to you? Liara looked away. I do not know. You're lying, Nathan said immediately. She inhaled sharply, her luminous glow dimming just slightly. I will be judge. And what does judgment mean? Another silence. Then, finally, she answered. It means they will erase me. Nathan's stomach turned to ice. Erase. Liara nodded, her voice quiet. Not death, not pain, just nothing. I will cease to exist, as though I never was. My memories, my consciousness, my very essence will be undone, because I have broken the law. Nathan's fists clenched. That's insane. Liara studied him for a long moment before whispering, It is simply the way it is. He shook his head, pushing away from the railing. No, no way. You chose me, Lara. That has to mean something. It does mean something. She blinked at him, her gaze unreadable. What do you propose, Nathan Carter? He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. We run. Lyra's lips parted slightly in surprise. Run. Yeah, you said they're coming, right? Then we get the hell out of here. We hide. Liara hesitated, a flicker of conflict crossing her radiant face. You do not understand, Nathan. The Nyvarin are not creatures that can be outrun. They are woven into the fabric of reality itself. When they arrive, the universe will bend to their will. Nathan's mind raced. Then we fight. She let out a breath of something that might have been a laugh. Soft, disbelieving. You would fight against a force that has existed since the dawn of time itself. Nathan met her gaze, his own steady. If it means protecting you, yes. A strange emotion passed through Lyra's eyes. She had lived through the lifetimes of stars, had seen entire species crumble beneath forces greater than themselves, and yet in this moment she believed him. Nathan Carter, a man so insignificant on the scale of the cosmos, was willing to stand against eternity itself for her. And that terrified her more than anything. A low hum filled the air suddenly. The kind of sound that wasn't quite sound, like a vibration in the fabric of space itself. Lyra's entire form tensed, her glow intensifying. They are here, she whispered. Nathan's heart pounded. Already. She turned to him, eyes burning with urgency. We must leave. Now. But. No time. Lyra grabbed his wrist, gently, but with a force that sent an electric sensation through his entire body. Nathan, trust me. You must not be here when they arrive. For the first time, real fear settled into Nathan's chest. He had no idea what was about to happen. But he knew one thing. He wasn't letting Lyra face it alone. Where do we go? He asked, his voice firm. She stared at him for a moment before closing her eyes. A light surrounded them, warm and infinite. And then, the world vanished. Far above Earth, in the void between stars. The Nyvarin did not travel as mortals did. They did not rely on ships or technology. When they wished to be somewhere, reality shifted to accommodate them. And now, the fabric of the universe bent as they arrived. 6 towering figures materialized above Earth's atmosphere, their presence unseen by the human eye, but felt by the very atoms of existence itself. Their forms shimmered like darkened constellations, their eyes burning with the knowledge of eternity. They were not angry. They were not cruel. They were absolute. The one at the center lifted a hand, and with a single gesture, Reality unfolded before them, revealing the rooftop where Lyra and Nathan had stood just moments before. But it was empty. The leader of the Niveran turned its gaze toward the distant threads of space, where echoes of Lyra's energy still flickered like the fading embers of a dying star. She runs. Another figure, taller and darker than the rest, let out a whisper that trembled through the fabric of the void. She has chosen. A silence stretched between them. And then, the leader lowered its hand. The edge of the infinite. Nathan had never experienced anything like it. One moment, he had been standing on solid ground, the cold winter air filling his lungs, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. The next, everything had dissolved into a luminous void of shifting energy, as if the universe had taken a deep breath and swallowed them whole. Colors bullied into one another, hues he had no name for stretching in every direction. There was no gravity, no sound, just the overwhelming sensation of movement without motion. He felt weightless, as if he were floating in an ocean of pure stardust. Then, just as suddenly, the world snapped back into existence. Nathan gasped, stumbling forward as his feet touched solid ground. He sucked in deep gulps of air, steadying himself before realizing something was off. The sky above him was not Earth's. It was vast, a swirling nebula of shifting violet and gold, illuminated by twin suns that cast elongated shadows across the ground. Towering crystalline structures jutted from the landscape like frozen lightning bolts, reflecting the celestial sky in their jagged surfaces. The air was crisp, charged with an energy that tingled against his skin. Nathan turned sharply to face Lyra, who stood motionless, her luminous form flickering slightly. Her gaze was fixed on the horizon, her expression unreadable. Where are we?" Nathan finally asked, his voice hoarse. Lyra blinked, as if snapping back into the moment. A safe place. For now. Nathan exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. Right, because running through dimensions is totally normal for me. Lyra gave him a small, almost amused look. You are adjusting better than most would. He let out a dry laugh. I don't know about that. I still feel like I'm about to throw up. She reached out, lightly touching his shoulder, and immediately, a warmth spread through him, settling the chaos in his nerves. Nathan shivered at the contact, not from cold, but from the sheer alien nature of it. He looked up at her. Are you okay? Lyra hesitated. I have never done this before. Nathan frowned. You mean running? I mean choosing. She turned away slightly, her gaze distant. I do not know what awaits me now. I do not know if this was the right decision. Nathan stepped closer. Lyra, you saved me. If they had caught us, they would not have harmed you. Nathan stopped. What? Lyra exhaled. You do not understand, Nathan. The Niveran have no interest in humanity. You are beneath their concern. They do not judge mortals for existing. But me, I was never meant to interfere. A heavy silence fell between them. Nathan clenched his jaw. So you're telling me I put you in danger? She shook her head. No, I put myself in danger the moment I chose you. Nathan swallowed. His chest ached with something he couldn't quite name. So what now? He asked. Lyra's gaze darkened. Now we find a way to ensure that choice was not in vain. Far beyond, in the abyss between stars, the Niveran did not chase. They did not pursue like animals on a hunt. They were inevitability, a force as inescapable as time itself. And Lyra had broken the one law they had held sacred for eons. The six figures drifted in the void, their towering forms wreathed in cosmic shadows. They were not angered. They did not experience rage or vengeance. They simply existed as arbiters of the balance. One of them, the tallest among them, turned its burning gaze toward the remnants of the path Lyra had left behind. She flees beyond the veil. Another voice, layered and vast, responded. She runs to delay the inevitable. It will not matter. The leader raised a hand, shifting reality itself. 1,000 possible futures unraveled before them, streams of light bending, twisting, showing glimpses of what was to come. And in every single one, Nathan Carter stood at the center. A human. One of the others whispered, observing the same thing. An anomaly, the leader responded. One that must be corrected. A pause. Then, with the weight of the cosmos behind its words, find him, find her, and restore what was broken. The universe trembled. The hidden truth. Back on the strange, alien world, Nathan and Lyra sat beneath the violet sky, the tension between them thick and unspoken. Nathan turned to her. If we're going to survive this, I need to know something. Why me? Lyra didn't answer immediately. Then softly, she said, because out of all the life I have ever witnessed, yours is the only one that made me question why I was watching it all. Nathan's breath caught. You made me want to be more than just an observer. Silence stretched between them. Nathan didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know if they would be able to outrun what was coming. But for now, sitting beside a celestial being who had chosen him over eternity, that was enough. For now.